Good morning, and thanks for attending this session. I am the program director for the Masters in Structural Engineering. Well, this is a program that consists of fulfilling 90 credits, and these 90 credits they need to be fulfilled through an entire year. So in the autumn trimester here, in 12 weeks, you're going to fulfill your first 30 credits. You're going to fulfill another 30 credits in the spring trimester that goes from January to the end of April. And finally, during the entire year, not only on the summer, you'll be fulfilling the remaining 30 credits, which consists of a research project. So this is our building. Most of our lectures will take place here in the School of Civil Engineering. And then the virtual learning environment that we employ here to deliver all our materials are brighter space, and you can access it also through the UCD website. So I'm going to discuss briefly the contents of these masters. So I was saying that in the autumn trimester you need to fulfill 30 credits, and these are the modules. There are 6 modules to fulfill. They're all core, so you must take all of them. There are 5 credits each. The one here in yellow, Relation Build Projects, this is delivered by architects. Then we have Innovation Leadership. This is a module where you're going to be managing small groups of undergraduates, and you're going to act as a team leader. In structural dynamics, you're going to learn, you're going to go beyond what you learned during your undergraduate studies, and you're going to learn to design a structure against earthquake loading, which you might have seen before, but maybe not to the detail you're going to see during the masters. In advanced materials, you're going to be learning more about materials that are not more modern materials like F4P, maybe not so modern anymore, more and more common, which is not sensitive to corrosion, which is the biggest enemy of steel and reinforced concrete. In analysis of structures 3, you're going to learn nonlinear analysis. So during your undergraduate studies, I'm sure you have seen a lot of linear elastic analysis, which is perfectly fine. But when you have to carry out analysis in the ultimate limit state for the worst load that is going to appear in the life of your structure, nonlinear analysis in the plastic regime or large displacements in the case of tall buildings is far more realistic and appropriate. And finally, this module, Quantitative Methods for Engineers, this is delivered by mathematicians, and it's going to go through a number of numerical methods that they're going to be useful for your research project and also in general for your work career. So these are the basic core modules that they're going to make. Hopefully, you'll be able to use some of these contents in your research project, and also they'll be the basis for the optional modules that you'll be taking on the spring that I'm going to cover briefly now. So these are the optional modules. You have them here. So here you can tailor your masters to your needs. So here you can choose. You have a total of 9 modules here. They're all somehow related to structures, and you need to pick 6 of them to fulfill 30 credits. So most of these modules, they have a similar structure, which is like 30% continuous assessment would be a typical module, and a 70% end of trimester exam. So here you have modules like agency design build. So this is again delivered by architects. The 2 modules you have here in yellow, they're delivered by architects. And here you'll actually build a real structure. So you're going to be in consultation with clients, and you're going to go from all the stages of building a structure, from the original idea to actually building it on campus. Design of Structures 3, this is delivered by Salam Al-Sabah, which is a practitioner from Arup. He was involved with a landmark in Dublin, like this building here, which is the Borgate Theatre. And he's delivering in Design of Structures, you'll see advanced Eurocode design for steel and for concrete structures. Bridge engineering is another advanced module. And this, we have our professor in civil engineering here. He's the author of these 2 bestsellers, Bridge Deck Analysis, and also this book on reinforced and pre-stressed concrete. Our professor is Eugene O'Brien. You can see here, that the people that is going to be delivering our modules here, there's going to be the people writing the books, and the people also, designing the big landmarks. You have Geotechnics 4 here is another optional module. Of course, the structures don't fly. So here you're going to be learning about foundations. Engineering design project, this is imparted by practitioners. And you're going to carry out a project this in the same way as you would be doing it in a consultancy firm. So they are real projects of real life. Wind wave and solid structure interaction. Here you're going to be learning to design, well, structures that are not everyday structures. For example, breakwaters, things like that. Something that goes outside from bridges and buildings, which is the most common for a structural engineer. Life cycle assessment in construction. Here you're going to learn how to use, recycled materials and applications. Ocean and coastal hydrodynamics, another one model here, also related with structures like offshore wind turbines and so on, that are not just the typical structures. And finally, in professional engineering management, this is delivered by mechanical engineers. You're going to see, everyday tasks carried out with the management of a project, including legal issues, finance, and so on. So from here, you need to pick 6 projects, and then there is 30 remaining credits, and this is the structural research project. So this runs actually for the entire year. It's very significant. It's 1/3 of the masters. This masters is graded. So you just don't pass the masters, you get a grade for it. So it's very important. And here you can choose your title, the title. So actually you have another chance to tailor the masters to your needs. So at the start of the year, in September, all the supervisors in civil engineering, they're going to provide a long list of titles, 60 or more. And here you need to pick a title that suits your need, that is something you would like to do. And then you'll be working for the entire year on this project. And the examination is going to take place at the end of August, at the end of the 3rd trimester I mentioned before. Well, of all our materials, as I was saying before, they can be accessed through our virtual learning environment, which is Space. Here you're going to have modules, and the lecturers upload here, quizzes, the lecture notes, videos, tutorial segments, everything can be found here. Also, through our virtual learning environment, you can access the online library. This is very useful to prepare for your research project, also to do consultations. If you want to go deeper into some of the modules or carry out assignments, you can access our software. While you register to UCD, you can have access to ANSYS, specialized software, ANSYS, Patran, MATLAB, and so on. All this you'll have access. Finally, if you, of course, I can only go very briefly through the contents of the masters in this presentation. If you want more details, you go to our main website here for the civil engineering school, which you have here listed. At the top, there is a banner. If you scroll through it, you'll find a link to the structural engineering masters. So if you click here, you're going to have a description for each of the modules, and you can see in detail what are the actual contents. And I'm going to leave it here. I hope I have not spent too long, and I'm going to give it back to Laura. Thanks. Cheers.
Great. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Artur.
Cheers.
Really appreciate that. So we are going to hand over now to Dr. Ekin Ozer, who is our program director for our ME or 2-year program in civil engineering.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, you're all good.
Perfect. So, dear students, welcome to the information session for the UCD School of Civil Engineering Master's Programs. In this particular session, I will introduce you our dual degree masters with Columbia University in the city of New York. This is a 2 year master's program, and 2 schools and universities contribute to the dual degree. The first year takes place at the School of Civil Engineering. So the starts in Dublin, Ireland. And during the first year, complete 60 ECTS credits within autumn and spring trimesters. And there is a diversity of credit resources, including taught modules, professional experience, and design projects. Most of the modules my colleague Arturo presented in the previous session will be available to you while you are in Dublin. In the second year, the students continue their studies in the partner university, Columbia University, based in the United States. And in New York City, the student completes 30 US credits, which is equivalent to 60 ECTS credits in our European system. So the credit sources include taught modules as well as research activities supervised by Columbia professors. So the modules in Columbia are also very diverse and they can be found in Columbia website. There are certain entry requirements for the program. UCD requires an undergraduate degree with first cycle honors. There is also a language requirement. Applicants are expected to have an IELTS score of 6.5 minimum in general, and none of the bands should have a score less than 6. In addition to UCD, Columbia also has certain requirements. Columbia requires a minimum GPA of 3.08 during the student's first year studies at UCD Dublin. And there's a GRE exam, and for the 2026 admission cycle, GRE is optional in this application process. And for the fees, they vary from year to year, so you can refer to the links below to have an idea of the fees in UCD as well as the fees in Columbia. So this is a niche program with a limited number of seats. The students who completed this program in the past had very positive feedback. Based on the previous years, our students stayed in the US after completing the program and have found jobs in industry leading companies. If the students wish to go back to Ireland after graduation, there is also a possibility, and this is called stay back visa for international students and can offer full-time work permit opportunities. And here we have a graduate profile, Tianyu Zhou. He's an example student who recently completed the program, and after graduation, he joined Arup in New York City. And that is the end of my introduction. You may have questions concerning the logistics related to the application process concerning Columbia and UCD. Feel free to get in touch with me. This is my email address, and I can direct you to the sources, either in UCD or in Columbia. You will find answers to your questions. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I'm gonna stop sharing.
Great. Thank you so much, Ekan, on that program. Really great. So we're going to
Thank
hand over
you.
now we're going to have two students speaking now. The first one up is Eva Brennan, who is a current student in our two-year program, or ME in Civil, Structural and Environmental Engineering. So I'm going to hand it over to yourself, Eva.
Perfect, thank you. Let me just share my screen. So I am in my final year of the master's here in UCD. I'm actually in my last couple of weeks in completing a master's in civil, structural, and environmental engineering. So I suppose why did I choose UCD? Or why did I choose civil engineering? So civil engineering side, the opportunities in industry at the moment are incredible. Whether you want to stay in Ireland or go abroad, you can really do whatever you want. And then within UCD, it's accredited by Engineers Ireland, and the course is really, it really allows you to tailor for what you want, whether that's roles in consultancy, construction, design, management. It's really great, and you can discuss like what opportunities you want to do with your lecturers, and they can guide you in the direction you should go. And then I suppose outside of the degree itself, the facilities across the campus here in UCD are amazing. The campus is huge. So between labs, libraries, gyms, playing fields, there's 50-meter swimming pools, and like we're basically in the middle of Dublin, and yet we have 8 kilometers of woodland trails. We're really close to the sea, so you can't get better than UCD, I guess. Um, so then within the degree, um, I suppose you've got a bit of a rundown there of some of the modules we do, and I won't dwell on this for too long. But within those modules, you get opportunities to do site visits. Just last week, one of our core modules for final year is highway engineering, and we got to go out to Roadstone, which is a CRH, which is a Forbes 500 company, and we got to see their biggest quarry in Ireland. We got to see their labs, and that was brilliant. And I know Arturo also mentioned one of our core modules is innovation leadership. So for that, you're working in teams of master's students, and you are guiding our first year engineers on how to work as a team and how to approach projects from the start. That's brilliant. And then during my degree, I've got a load of opportunities to do internships. So I'm from Ireland, I'm from Kilkenny, but the first internship I ever did, I actually got to go to London and I worked for Arup on their energy, water, and resources team. And then following that, I actually did another internship within Ireland, and that was in construction. And I got to work on a pharmaceutical facility. Where we had 700 people on site every day, and I had to manage workload in different areas of the site. And then this set me up really well for during my master's. I did an 8-month internship with Arup again in their Dublin office, and I was on their energy or their water and flooding team. Um, and this allows you to work with like really an international team, a very diverse team. You can work on projects within Ireland, you can work on projects abroad, and it really gives you a great insight into future prospects for where you might want to go. So that led me to signing a contract. And once I finish up here in UCD in a couple of weeks, I'll actually be going back to Arup and I'm going back to their water and flooding team. So we're looking at kind of large scale flood defences within Ireland. We're looking at forescoping into the future and how to manage our water resources. So this is very exciting, and I'm not the only one. Everyone in my year already has a job, whether they want to be in construction, whether they want to be in offices. A number of people have the opportunity to go abroad, so it's really, really great. We're set up very well here. And again, outside of learning, there's so many clubs and societies. I think there's nearly 60 sports clubs in UCD. Um, and then also within civil engineering, we're kind of like a little family here in Newstead, which is the Civil Engineering Building, and we have the Civil Engineering Society. So just a couple of weeks ago, we went on a trip together to Krakow. There's a civil engineering swim club, so nearly every week, a group of civil engineers will get together and they'll go for a sea swim. Um, and then we also have the Engineering Society, which is with all of the other streams of engineering, so your mechanicals, your electricals, your biomeds, and they also run a load of both fun activities or academic based. And every year we do a engineering ball where all the streams get together. We dress up really fancy. We have a nice dinner. Um, and then I've also got the opportunity in UCD to be part of loads of sports clubs. So I've represented UCD in rowing. I've gone on ski trips to France with the snow sports club. I mentioned there's a 50-meter swimming pool here, as well as a gym and sauna area. So I've been part of the swimming team and the cycling team as well. So whatever you're interested in, there really is opportunities for you to do anything you want. So I suppose I'll leave it at that. There's loads of information online for all the different clubs that you can look into outside of your academics.
Great. Thank you so much, Eve. It sounds like you had a great experience within the context of the course and outside as well. So we are going to hand it over now to our next student, which is Abigail Burke, who is one of our current students in our one-year program, MNGC, in water and environmental engineering.
Yeah, hello, thank you. Yeah, my name is Abigail Burke, and I'm in the Water, Waste, and Environmental Engineering course at UCD. I pursued this course originally because I knew that I wanted to pursue a future career in the water resources engineering sector. My undergraduate degree is actually in environmental science, and this course offered a really great way to bring kind of my natural science background into a more engineering focused program, while not sacrificing my science background either. Really liked that the program offered a specialization into water and waste, which is the direction I knew I wanted to go. A lot of the other schools and programs I'd looked at were not as focused, a little more broad, and I knew I'd find the experience that I was looking for here at UCD. And throughout the course, I've actually found a lot of enjoyment in my assignments, which is not something you often hear students say. But the professors here do a really great job of explaining how a lot of the software or the methodology that we use has real world applications and can actually be added to a resume as a skill. In my specific program, I found a lot of my modules actually aligned really well too. So I'm able to bring experiences or things that I've learned in other modules to a current problem that I'm working on in a different class, and it's all kind of relevant and really ties together really well. I've also really loved working on my research project, which is the 30 credits of the total 90. And we got to choose from a variety of presented topics. I'm personally looking at how pollutant remobilization during flooding impacts different socioeconomic groups in an urban setting. But I know that some of my peers have focuses on assessing manure for biofluid purposes, and optimizing water networks using machine learning. So there's definitely a lot of options to really dive into what you're interested in and all that. Originally, I came from a school as well that only had about 600 students across all year levels, so very small. So one of the things I was worried about moving here was obviously how big UCD is, but I can say that I've got a really great learning experience. The professors are awesome. When you reach out with questions, they're happy to help. And I feel totally comfortable approaching them all the way on campus, and you really get to know one another. It's a great little program. Um, Also, my cohort this year is pretty small, and I don't think it's going to get much larger next year from projections. But that's actually been one of the upsides for me is that we're all really close. We can talk about not only assignments, but just life as a student, and we just hang out outside class. It's been really great that way. When I finish my degree here, I'm hoping to land a role in water resources, whether that be water treatment or flood design. While I'm not decided yet, I feel that my degree has really prepared me to approach a wide array of roles and do a really good job. As I mentioned previously, you get a lot of really applicable skills about the degree that can only make you a better prospective candidate at the end of the day. And in case you couldn't tell by my accent either, I'm from the US. So moving to Ireland was definitely a big move. I've never lived abroad before. I never did a semester abroad. I won't under-exaggerate the challenges that come with that, but I'll say that it was 100% worth it. It's not only enriched my personal life, but I'm able to study with and learn from a cohort of global scholars and experts, which is one of the main drivers of me coming here in the first place. Everyone's from all over. They come from different experiences, different backgrounds, and it only expands your worldview and your knowledge. And I think it just makes you a better engineer at the end of the day. Um, I also UCD is really great at helping if there's any Americans out there specifically, all those crazy forms that we have to do for school. They're super knowledgeable about all that. I've had probably a million questions since I moved here, and they've been super helpful with all of that. So yeah, I really love my time here. I've loved the program, and I'm definitely looking forward to the warmer weather. So I'll hand it back to you, Laura.
Great, thank you so much. I'm glad you've had a great experience with this so far, Abigail. That's great to hear. So we are going to move on now to our kind of Q&A section of the webinar today. So I know there has been a couple of questions come in through the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. So do continue to put them in as they come to you, and we'll get through as many of them as we can in the time that we have left on the webinar. So I just wanted to see, I think there was one or two questions, Katie. I might just jump to yourself just to kick it off. One or two questions related to scholarships, if you wouldn't mind explaining how they work within the setting of our college and what students need to know about them.
Perfect. Yeah. So with the scholarships, they're mainly for our non-EU students. So that's students paying non-EU fees. If you're making an application, you're going to automatically be assessed for what we call an international student scholarship, or the abbreviation is ISS. So you don't need to apply for that. We will automatically assess you. And if you're eligible, with your offer or conditional offer, it'll be applied on your offer letter. The high value scholarship is called the Global Excellence Scholarship. And if you haven't already applied for it, the deadlines have now passed. They usually pass between February and March, depending on your region. So unfortunately, they are no longer open, and we are still assessing applicants for that. There is also a Government of Ireland one. And again, hopefully anyone interested has already applied, because the deadline for that, I believe, was March 8th or around that time. What I do say to international students as well is it is surprising how many students get scholarships from their own local authorities or governments who might support students, particularly in areas of engineering and civil engineering specifically, because as we know, there is quite a skills shortage with these particular disciplines. So governments are often seeking to support them.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Katie. That's great. And I just stick with yourself, Katie, if that's okay, just to explain a little bit about our application process, how students, if they're interested after listening to this webinar today, how they can apply for some of our programs, and a little bit about the rolling admission system.
Yep. So if you have made an application It's usually about a 3-week turnaround time, particularly at the moment because of the peak period that we're at. If you are concerned that it's taking longer than you think, please feel free to drop me an email. I'm going to pop in mine and Laura's emails with your application number, and we'll look at your details specifically. But for anyone else who hasn't applied, now is absolutely the time. We're reaching capacity in a lot of our programs, and you can apply either by going to ucd.ie/apply. Again, I'll pop in the link, or go to the course page and you'll see an apply now. There isn't a deadline. We operate a rolling basis, as Laura said, or until we fill up.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. Artur, I'll go to you on this one because obviously you have a part-time version of your program, and there was just someone asking about how the part-time version of the program works. Is it, classes during the week, and how do they choose their modules and things like that?
Yes, the part-time version of the program runs in 2 years. So usually, the students, they would take around 40 credits, 45 in the first year, and then they would leave the remaining 55 credits, including the research project. Research project must be undertaken in the second year. Usually, the approach they take, this is people that might be working, so they try to take in each of the years like those modules that they might be running on the same day, so they don't have to, split their working day too much. And this is the way it's done, So basically, they take around half the modules in each year, or a bit less in the first year.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And then there was Katie, I might get you to pop a link to our course catalog in the chat. There was just someone asking around the list of modules that are available specifically for each of these programs. So if you go to the course catalog, which Katie will share a link to, you can go to the course page, and there's a section called View All Modules, and you'll see all the list of modules on those pages, and it gives you course descriptor, how you'll be assessed, and the kind of learning outcomes of those particular modules as well. And then there also was just a question, not related to a specific program, just around how dissertations or theses are assigned, and can students choose their own topics, or are topics assigned from a list by the academics? How does that work for students on your programs? Ekin or Artur, whoever wants to answer.
Yes. The way it works is from this big list, you send to the module coordinator for the research projects. You send your order of preference, and then the module coordinator will try to assign you your first choice. Sometimes, if there are a few people going for the first project as first choice, then this will be assigned on the basis of your GPA. So the best student will be getting it. You can propose to one of the supervisors your own topic, but the supervisor needs to be make sure that this is going to lead to a research project, and that you're going to meet the credits. So you need to talk to the supervisor first, but usually this is possible. Then you'll be meeting your supervisor on a weekly basis to monitor the progress. And there are a few steps in the way, so you need to submit around Christmas a literature review, and a bit before a research plan. Then you have to do a presentation in the way, and finally your final project will be submitted in mid-August, with the examination at the end of August. I don't know if you want to add something else, Ekin.
Like on the Columbia side, if you finished with UCD, on the Columbia side in our program, in degree with Columbia, so in the second year, the students are expected to take some research credits, and for that, they reach out to potential supervisors in Columbia faculty and conduct research for a period of time. And there is no requirements regarding the thesis and similar outputs. It's up to the supervisor to set expectations, but of course we can help with connections and introductions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. There was just one or two questions coming in related to specific applications. So I would just ask that if anyone has questions relating to their specific application to reach out to myself and Katie after the webinar today, and making sure to include your application ID number, and we can have a look at them after the session today, if that's okay. And then there was just one question here related to, and again, for Artur or Ekin, related to employability rates from your programs, and maybe if you had any information on kind of average salaries for students coming out with civil engineer degrees from this particular school. And then just to mention that I know Eva talked about her cohort of students, every one of them having kind of almost got a job to go into when they finish the program, which is very exciting for students. But Artur or Ekin, if you wanted to highlight maybe some employability information for students of your programs, if you had any to hand.
I think all our students, as far as I know, they're fully employed. One of the big difficulties we have as a researcher myself here is that we cannot find PhD students. And one of the reasons is they all end up in industry, after their work placement in first year or whatever, they don't want to come back to university, and they're all fully employed. The first salary in Ireland, I'm not now 100% sure, but I think it's something around 35,000. So this could be like the first year into your first job, something around those numbers. Is that correct, Akin? Do you recall it or?
I can't recall a number.
Okay.
Salary. Yes. Again, like in our program, I guess the final decision whether the students want to continue working in the US or coming back to Ireland would determine probably the expected salary. Compared to the program presented, our program is new. It has few, so there is not much statistics, but based on the cases we have, they all landed jobs, as Arturo said, right after graduation, and they are still based in good industrial companies.
Great. I think that'll be comfort for those listening that there's some really great information about how well our students are doing and the kind of landscape of civil engineering in the country at the moment, which is great. Eva, I might just come to yourself as you're on our 2-year program. So you would have talked about your embedded internship as part of your degree. Can you talk a little bit more about the process of actually securing that placement? Do you have to do that yourself? Does UCD help you in that respect? How does the process work for getting that internship?
Yeah, so you can start going about doing it yourself, but UCD actually really helps you along the way. They have a careers portal that we're given access to in September of our first semester of the master's. And then basically all the companies who are offering internships will have contacted UCD. That'll be posted on that website, and you can just click through, see what ones you are interested in, and then you can apply through this portal to each company. And then they will respond to you within a couple of weeks. They'll set up an interview. Some people, the companies got back really quick. They interviewed really quick and they got offered a job. Other people got the experience of doing loads of interviews and then having to pick which one they do. But it's really quick. Kind of between October and November of your first semester, you'll have applied, interviewed, and accepted a job that you're going to start the following year.
Okay, great. So it sounds like the process is quite streamlined, and you're getting support from our internship managers and things like that, which is great. Thank you very much. There's also a question here around potential. You highlighted a little bit of that, Arturo, that there is PhD opportunities within this particular school. So are there opportunities maybe for a student who's done a 1-year master's with us, say in this instance, water, waste, and environmental engineering, to then go on to pursue a PhD opportunity? And how might students go about securing a PhD within this school?
Is that for me, Laura?
Yeah, just in general. I know you're not from
Yes.
water waste specifically,
Well,
but just around how
yeah.
students go about getting a PhD, and is there opportunities there?
Okay, there is a page in the school website where you can download an application form to carry out postgraduate studies with us, and then you forward this to the school administrator, and then the school administrator is going to direct this application to whatever experts in the school. But also each time we have a position, these are advertised, if not in our website, Well, it could be in LinkedIn, or it could be in ResearchGate, or there are different sources where these positions come along, and that's happening all the time. We're I mean, we're winning lots of projects, so there's always positions every year, and actually, uh, the biggest challenge is to fill these vacancies, So if they're interested in a PhD student, please contact, directly our mainstream engineering office or the supervisors, some of the supervisors in the topic of your interest, and we'll see, what's available.
Great. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Arturo. So that's all the open questions that we have on the webinar today. So just unless anyone has any further questions, we've reached the end of the webinar. Before we wrap up, I'd just like to let you know that we did pop myself and Katie's email address in the chat there. So if you do want to follow up with any questions after today, or want any additional resources, or as I said, a check on your application, please do reach out to us after the webinar today. Just to thank you for joining us, for your engagement, for your questions, and thank you to our speakers for your insights on your programs today. And other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.